Welcome to Gear 5 Luffy vs One Piece Treasure Cruise, the series where we can only use the two versions of Gear 5 Luffy in the two captain positions, and in today's episode we are going to defeat all of the hard INT classes from the Recollection archive only using free-to-play crewmates. Without further ado, let's begin episode 1. First up, we have raid V2 Doflamingo, a very easy raid for today's One Piece Treasure Cruise standards that came out approximately 6 years ago. Doflamingo is a very niche unit, being able to extend attack boosting and ore boosting buff durations, but unfortunately he is not a character that allows access to a lot of different super types, super class, or even EX super specials, and on top of that he is actually also very niche, which results to him not really being used today. This is a very easy quest to deal with. In the first two stages, some of the mobs can actually apply bind or special rivers, but we do not care since we have Gear 5 as our captain. We can freely stall, and I would say the main mechanic of this quest you have to think about is after Doflamingo's revive in the final stage, we need to remove his 99 hit barrier with a unit that is not free spirit, because he special binds free spirit units for 99 turns. With our free-to-play Sanji here, we can extremely easily deal with that. Generally, for the Sai free-to-play Straw Hats we have as crewmates, Sanji and Zoro are fully maxed out. Sanji needs to be, Zoro doesn't. Essentially, they are free and extremely easy to max out actually from the 5 stamina quest in Extra Island. Nami and Frankie are not though, they are not needed to be of course either. Reaching stage number 3, we are going to face off against Treble. Treble will actually bind some of our units randomly, we do not care since our Gear 5 captain can remove it, and then we can just super easily attack him and defeat him. He does not have a lot of HP, but after his defeat he will cut our own HP by 80%, which is not an issue. Moving forward to stage number 4, we are going to face Doflamingo for the first time, and he will transition his color into Q from INT. He will special bind our bottom row units as well. We do not really care, we just want to activate one Gear 5 Luffy special to immediately take care of him and proceed. We are going to see slot bind appear in different stages during this quest, but it really does not matter and it doesn't play a role with this team because we have way too much overkill damage. After the preemptive in the final stage, we will still have the special bind present, but it doesn't matter since our captains are not special binded and we want to use our second Gear 5 Luffy special. It does not matter if we get his ore boost, since the enemy is INT, the color affinity is more than enough to defeat him, and the correct order of activation is actually not something essential to pay attention to. We can one-tap Doflamingo, our units are freed from special bind, and he revives to approximately 500,000 HP. That is very low, and what we want to do, since the special bind is gone from our crewmates, the non-free spirit ones, at least because it is reapplied on Frankie, who we don't need anyway, might as well activate the other EX Super to have double Gear 5, and then with Sanji, we will remove the 99 hit barrier Doflamingo has because Sanji is fully level limit broken. Then might as well also activate Nami for better slots and Zoro for an ore boost, why not? After that, we attack, super easily defeat Dofi, and clear our first raid. Our second raid will be raid Lucci. It came out approximately 5 years ago. Of course, back then raids were constantly coming out in One Piece Treasure Cruise, not like today, but Lucci definitely is an outdated unit. Although he could still find uses in specific situations where no delay immunity was present, since he can provide delay and a conditional attack boost versus the delayed enemies if only one enemy is present in the stage, which happens in majority of main stages. Unfortunately, that has become considerably worse after units started coming out that could provide defense down even ignoring immunity or delay or whatever other debuff to the enemy, and then providing a conditional attack boost either with their superclass, special, super type, or other abilities. The main worry, I guess you can say, in this raid is that Lucci does not want you to have matching slots in the final stage, so he permanently manipulates them to badly matching TNT and bomb when you manipulate them from a special. Does G5 Luffy care? Not really, since we can beat him without matching slots. The first stage with mechanics in this quest will be found in stage number 3, where the Strength Marine, the middle one, will have a 2 great hit barrier in order to take damage. Well, first of all, we will take care of everyone around him, since he won't attack us immediately, but even if we don't want to break the barrier, we can actually use 1 Gear 5 EX Super to then ignore the barrier and just hit our perfects, but it really doesn't matter either way you choose. We can easily defeat him here, and the funny thing is that he technically provides us with unfavorable slots, but in this team INT slots are actually matching on everyone, so it works in our favor. In the next stage, we once again want to take out the main marine, the Q1, out first, and then we just want to take out everyone else as fast as possible. If one of the cannoneers stays alive, he will despair our friend captain, and when the Q Marine gets defeated, he will special bind our units. While I could have technically activated a special here to deal with more marines or even all of them in one stage, I didn't, but thankfully we do have 5+ story Robin here, who if we activate can deal with the special bind and also the despair on our friend captain alongside sockets. Provided we only leave one cannoneer alive, of course, and it is very easy after the Q Marine to take out at least 2 out of the 3 cannoneers, which we managed to do, and then clear the stage in the next turn. In the main stage, technically the only special that can help us with damage is the Sanji one, because Sanji provides chain boundaries. But just like chain lock, chain boundaries do not count as a beneficial effect from enemies, so they won't be removed from Lucci's interruption. Then we can activate both the EX Super Specials and the normal specials of our Luffy captains. The EX Super Special will provide the upgraded captain ability on Luffy and also more damage to the entire team, but both the ore boost and the color affinity boost alongside the matching slots we can obtain from Luffy are completely removed by Lucci. The thing is that the 2 million damage Luffy can do still applies and depletes Lucci's HP bar significantly. The combined 4 million damage from the Luffy specials will help us easily defeat Lucci, even with having his slots and only chain boundaries. Raid Blackbeard is up next, also approximately came out 5 years ago, and the funny thing about this Blackbeard is that just like our Gear 5 Luffy's special, if in the Gear 5 form, can remove one turn of many different positive buffs from the enemy, and this version of Blackbeard can essentially do the exact same thing, but more for specific buffs, not all of them, but majority of them are included in his special anyway. He was labeled as a Swiss Army knife when he came out back in the day, but the thing is that he has been kind of power crept from V to Blackbeard, because that legend can do the same thing this Blackbeard can do, and more, of course, from his super type ability. If you can't have access to that, maybe this Blackbeard can be useful, but in very niche situations. A pretty common thing so far for these older INT raids. By the way, in case you are wondering, the 1 turn of paralysis in stage number 3 is removed because of the sailor ability of our Sai free-to-play Nami. The same will happen in stage number 4, but we will also activate Nami, so we get rid of the paralysis and then we can take care of the remaining enemies to proceed and face off versus the mini-bosses in stage number 4. When Blackbeard came out, he actually had a lot of HP for the time he was released at 25 million, but right now with a full Sai Gear 5 Luffy team, because he is INT, it is extremely easy to defeat him. In stage number 4 we want to activate one EX Super Special, so we have the ability to ignore the threshold and beat the enemies through it, and might as well activate Sanji once, if you do have his double special activation, to gain some matching slots and make the process more comfortable. Some tricky mechanics this Blackbeard has is that he actually revives. He applies an after defeat hit for around 30,000 HP, a bit less I would say. Then we actually get limited to one special per turn after his revive, but he doesn't really have a lot of HP, so it doesn't matter that much. The thing you need to make certain you don't do here is you do not want to activate the Rasugo special of Gear 5 Luffy, because that will deplete your HP bar and Blackbeard will defeat you. What we want to do is activate some of our specials for damage though, Sanji for chain boundaries and slots, Robin for the full board of guaranteed matching slots and a conditional attack boost, and then we can super easily defeat him without activating our Gear 5 Luffy, because Blackbeard will interrupt his ore boost. We don't need it anyway, we defeat him super easily for the first time. Now we can survive the after defeat hit extremely comfortably, and since we only have one special activation left, we are going to activate one of our Luffy specials and immediately defeat Blackbeard to clear the quest. Raid Sulong Carrot is actually a quest that released around 4 years ago, but contains quite a few new mechanics or newer mechanics for that period of time. Shipbind is an example, which we are not going to deal with, we don't really need to since this team can easily deal with Carrot. Stage 4 can also alternate between two different mini-bosses, something we see a lot in today's One Piece Treasure Cruise. We can either see Sai Brook or Strength Jinbe, and they do have similar mechanics except some main differences, but we can super easily deal with both. If Jinbe appears, you essentially want to activate Robin, but if Brook appears, you want to activate Nami. In the first stages, while you stall, some of the enemies can actually provide you with blindness and bomb slots. We don't really care about the bomb slots, and I think the blindness in majority of cases you will stall out anyway to get your specials, so it will be removed in the important stages, nothing to really worry about. In stage 2 you might also be chain locked from the middle enemy, but the same thing applies. Carrot is actually a pretty interesting unit, I would say she can still find uses to this day. She is centered around Q and INT units being able to boost their attack, and you have the ability to actually reactivate her special, because every time a Q or INT unit activates their special and Carrot does not have hers, she gets special cooldown reduction for 3 turns. If you activate her twice, she can even remove 6 turns of defense up. If you activate her 3 times, maybe even 9, which even for today's One Piece Treasure Cruise standards is pretty decent. In stage number 3, we are going to encounter the perfectly locked slot mechanic, and this is a pretty important stage because we first want to hit our perfects to take care of the 2 seahorses and the perfect barrier enemy, but also reduce the perfect lock on our slots. And then with 2 enemies remaining, one has a great barrier and the other one has a good barrier. We still want to hit a full perfect combo, so we get rid of the perfect locks on our slots and we can manipulate them in the later stages. Absorbing some hits is also fine. After that, and before we proceed, we want to activate Sanji once, because he can provide us 2 turns of chain boundaries, which will stop the preemptive low chain lock being applied in stage number 4 from either Jinbe or Brook. After that, we can hit the correct hits for each barrier and defeat all the enemies in stage 3. As you can see here, Brook appears, he will paralyze us, and his chain lock won't be applied because of Sanji's chain boundaries being 2 turns. Since we have Brook, Nami is the unit we want to activate to remove paralysis. If we had Jinbe, Robin would be the unit, and then we want to activate one EX Super and Special of one of our 2 Luffy captains to actually gain lots of damage and super easily deal with the mini-boss. If you are a newer player or just someone that generally doesn't have any of these in-trade units, I would definitely advise you to actually farm Carrot and max her out. She can be pretty useful to your box. In the final stage, Carrot also has an interruption for chain boosting specials, so have that in mind and do not activate one. We are limited to 2 specials either way, so we want to follow this order. First of all, we want to activate the remaining EX Super of our Captain Luffy, and then his special in the Gear 5 form to mainly get an ore boost, damage Carrot, and also obtain the full board of guaranteed matching slots. After that, might as well activate Zoro, who is maximum level limit break by the way, and he can remove defense up completely, so we have a super easy time versus Carrot, who even turned into a strength unit, blocking our color affinity boosting from helping, but it really does not matter. Raid Kaido is up next, and the interesting thing about this raid is that it has a 10-star difficulty and an 11-star difficulty. It came out approximately 3 years ago. I also made guides on it back in the day. And I would have challenged the ambush as well for this video, but it's not possible because you can only do that by using strength and Q units, and obviously Gear 5 Luffy is a Psi unit, making it impossible to challenge the ambush. This is also the first team in this series where we are going to use a unit outside of the Psi free-to-play Straw Hats, still a free-to-play unit though, Kizuna 5+ Garp. In this stage where the chain lock is applied to your team, you actually don't really want to leave the back row enemies alive because they will perfect lock your middle row units, but it's not that important either, especially if you want to stall more for your Gear 5 specials. During this quest I actually tried getting rid of the perfect lock, I managed to do it, then got perfect locked again and just said screw it and continued with the quest. The thing is, Garp will get blown away at some point anyway, so his slot won't matter in the final stage, and if we just have one block slot, it's not the end of the world, even if we can't manipulate it. A new debuff was released with this quest, it is Confusion, as you can see, and it is applied in stage number 3. It will be applied to the bottom row units, and the way we get rid of this debuff is by losing HP in some kind of way, either from our own special or from getting hit by the enemy, which is the way we prefer here, of course. Whenever you know your Luffy specials will be ready for stages 4 and 5, you just proceed, stop stalling and defeat every enemy. In stage 4, we will encounter Zack. He will gain a damage reduction shield and resilience. After he is defeated though, he will blow away our captain. And because we don't want our Gear 5 Luffy to be blown away as captain, since we are going to lose big damage in the final stage, we want to have Garp in the captain position for him to be blown away instead. Before we deal with that though, we want to activate the EX Super and Special of our friend captain to increase our damage, and then Brook to apply increased damage taken and remove resilience. He needs to be level limit break 5 by the way, in order for his special to do that, and then we activate Garp. We of course press yes on the option for him to become captain, and we have the option to activate his super type as well. It doesn't really matter either way. If you do activate it, make certain you don't disable the captain switch. We want him to stay in the captain position, and now we attack to easily defeat Zack, and after his defeat he will blow away Garp, but in the next turn Luffy will return in his captain position, which will essentially result in us losing a crewmate with a block slot in this case as well, so it really isn't that impactful. Kaido is another int raid boss that will change its color to not int, so he will become Dex, not a problem for our team though, even with 5 members. What we want to do first after sockets activate to reduce despair is activate Robin. If at maximum level limit break, Robin will manipulate the non-perfect locked block slots into matching, will remove despair, and will also apply a conditional attack boost to our crew and defense down to Kaido. Then we are going to activate Sanji for chain boundaries and Brook with his second special activation to apply increased damage taken. Something to have in mind here, we do not want to activate the EX Super of our remaining Luffy first and then his special, because if we apply an ore boost, Kaido has an interruption which will ruin our run. So we just activate Luffy, mainly for the damage, and then his EX Super to increase the damage output of our side slots. We attack Kaido and defeat him. The final raid we are going to go against in this first episode is Raid Buggy, Buggy's Delivery to be more exact. This is from when the V1 Straw Hat crew was released on One Piece Day a couple of years back. They have the unique ability of having rainbow damage under specific conditions, so Buggy in both stages 3 and 5 has the ability to have different colors every single time. It is in his preemptive to change from mint to any other color randomly. Even though we have almost a full side team, it won't be an issue. The only unit I am using outside of the Gear 5 and the Cypher to play Straw Hats is Kizuna 5+ Blackbeard, because in stage number 4 he can deal with defense up and special bind, while also providing us with a conditional attack boost for the defense down enemy, which is actually very strong. We do not need the maximum level of his special here, stage 2 of his special works just fine. This Buggy is not an amazing unit, even though he can provide a decent ore boost, which is universal as well. He actually does provide utility, but it is subpar on all aspects since it is only 2 turns for all of the debuffs he can possibly remove. A jack of all trades that can find uses, but a master of none. As you can see, our level 2 Blackbeard special will be ready to go for stage 4, so we can immediately proceed from stage number 3. First, we want to activate Sanji once for chain boundaries, and then make certain to transition at least one of our Captain Luffy's into his Gear 5 form, so we can take advantage of the Gear 5 Captain ability to ignore the barrier and defeat Buggy, no matter what color he decides to become. Usopp here with his Sailor ability will also remove Buggy's silence that he applied to our team, so we can hit our perfects freely even without wanting to break the barrier. In stage 4, defense up, threshold and special bind will be applied. We don't care about the threshold since we have the Gear 5 Captain ability. We do want to remove the defense up and the special bind though, and Blackbeard is our unit to do it. Activating him after he resists the special bind, removes it from everyone, applies defense down, 100% of it, so it deals with defense completely, and the conditional attack boost for our crew. Then we can activate the other EX Super of our Captain Luffy, so we have more overall damage with upgraded Captain abilities, and then we attack based on slot advantage to easily defeat both enemies immediately. A unique part about this raid is that Buggy applies an after defeat hit, and it is around 20 to 25,000, and he also summons 2 of his crewmates in the back row with a perfect barrier. With this team they do not matter, we are going to target them, and since 2 of our Luffy specials are up, we are going to activate 1 Luffy special on Moji, 1 on Kabaji, and the 2 million damage will penetrate the barrier and completely get rid of them. Luffy in the process will also provide us with a full board of guaranteed matching slots and an ore boost, and then we want to activate Sanji for chain boundaries and Zoro to remove the enemy's defense up. Both of them, of course, Sanji and Zoro, are maximum level limit break, and after that we can ignore the damage reduction shield because of Luffy's Gear 5 Captain ability and defeat Buggy. Just have in mind, do not activate Luffy's Ratsugo special to not decrease your HP and survive the after defeat hit.